This is my second robot vacuum, which means I have two robots in my house right now. One might ask oneself, what do you do when you have two robots? Of course, the obvious answer is you make them battle to the death. In this case, strap knives to them and, I'm just kidding, I didn't do that. But hey, Roborock. What's up YouTube, Jason here with Byte My Bits. In today's video, I'm doing another review of a robot vacuum. As I said in the intro, this is the second one, and I have to say it's actually a little bit better than the last one, so that's good, although it does cost a little bit more. But before I dive into the review, let me give you a few of the basics with this robot. This is the Roborock E20. It's controlled by the My Home app that's compatible with iOS or Android. It has 6 different modes, 5 of which include mopping, silent, standard, strong, or max. The 6th one is a manual control. It has automatic carpet detection, which ramps up its vacuum power, automatic low power recharge with automatic resume. It's connected via 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, can clean up to 100 minutes per charge, and has the options to schedule automatic cleanings. Now this is the E20 Roborock, which means it's the base model Roborock. They go all the way up to like E55. I think they have like 6 or 7 different models. So this one doesn't have as many features as its bigger brothers, but still it seems to be a pretty decent robot so far. One of the key things that I noticed the difference between this one and the bigger brother, at least with the stats online, is that this one does not have any virtual walls or no-go zones. However, it does come equipped with the option to install a mop, which is kind of unique and kind of cool, but in my experience, at least with my setup, kind of pointless because unless you put like boards down telling it where not to go, or you have to buy a $30 magnetic strip, it doesn't actually know that it shouldn't go on carpet, so it'll drag water over your carpet. And they highly recommend you don't drag water over your carpet. That, and when you put it into mopping mode in the app, it actually turns off the vacuuming portion of the cleaning, which means it's only going to drag the mop around. So dragging it around on carpet's really not going to do you any good. So it doesn't have the no-go feature built into the app like its bigger brothers, but you can pay $30 extra to get these magnetic strips that you can put under rugs and things like that, anywhere you want to tell it not to go. I didn't get any of those, so I couldn't test it. So when I tested the mopping thing, I had to do it manually, but I'll touch on that in a second. As far as the app itself, it's actually fairly robust. You have to dig a little bit to get some of the features, but overall, it's a pretty decent app. The app is built by the parent company, Ziowa, which is actually built for many different applications, security cameras, and other smart home devices. So this is kind of like an add-on to an app that controls other things, which, could be good and bad, which means it's not specialized in the vacuum, and it's kind of a jack of all trades app, but, overall it's a decent app. The only thing I didn't like is finding things like manual control or setting up spot cleaning was kind of buried into the menu system rather than on the front screen. And in my opinion, the front screen has a lot of extra real estate that they could have easily added buttons to. Making you go into the menu to find these little features are kind of weird to me, but either way, it still works. You just have to dig a little bit. From the main screen, you can pick 5 different cleaning options, one of which is the mopping feature. The others go from silent all the way up to max, which is just increasing the sucking power of the vacuum the higher you go. So the higher you go, the more battery it uses, the louder it is, the less square footage it's going to be able to clean per battery charge. It claims up to 100 minutes, which I would assume would be on the silent mode. I didn't test it all the way, but with my experience, I just turn these things all the way up because, I want it to clean as much as possible. Although I can say that the carpet detection is kind of nice because you can turn it on in normal mode if you're on hardwood floors or tile or something like that. And then as soon as it detects that it's on carpet, it actually ramps up that vacuum power. So that might actually save you some battery time. Now the app itself actually has a pretty good mapping system built into it. You can go in and even see previous cleaning logs, see the maps that it generated for each one. And I have to say, based off the map, it's actually very accurate for how my house is laid out, at least what it can access. I still wish I could add the no-go lines on the map like its bigger brothers, but it's a base model, so you got to deal with what you have. One thing to note here is that when this got stuck, the previous robot vacuum that I had, every time I had to move it to get it unstuck, it reset the map. When I moved this one to get it unstuck, it's still stuck with the map that it already had. So it didn't seem to reset the map. That was kind of nice, which plays into it being able to find home actually a lot faster than the previous robot. Now for my cleaning, I did a little bit of a different route because I've already tested the previous robot doing one charge, seeing how much it picked up. The thing about that last test is that it got so full that I'm pretty sure it didn't get everything. That's where this thing came into play. It picked up everything else. It did a pretty good job of it. Although, to be fair, I've ran it probably 3 times. It's all in the same area, and I don't actually make a ton of mess. It's just like dust and random stuff, but it cleaned it basically 3 times. And if I'm gonna share my filth, yeah, it's that full. Last time I dumped this out on my desk, and that was disgusting. So it got pretty full. Yeah, it's good. It's good. At first I was actually going to address this video like, oh, look how much more this picked up versus the last robot that I reviewed. But then after reviewing the video for the last robot, I realized that this container was full, which once it gets full, it's gonna restrict its sucking capability, which means the last one just got so full that, you know, that's on me. So I'm not gonna say this is this much better than the last robot. I'm saying that this picked up this much stuff, which is pretty impressive. And this is also pretty easy to remove or replace into the robot. You just flip up the trunk and pull it out. So my cleaning, which turns out to be about 915 square accessible feet, which for the robot actually took 90 minutes. This is at the maximum setting, and it had to recharge 1 time. Now this has automatic recharging and resume, which is actually really nice. It got down to about 20%, was at about 18% by the time it found its way back to the base, and it charged itself back up to 100% in roughly about 1 hour and 45 minutes. For a total amount of charging usage, I'm gonna say about 130 to 140% total charge required to clean my 915 roughly square feet upstairs. Really, when it comes down to the battery capacity though, because it has auto recharge and auto resume, it doesn't actually matter too much if you use the max setting or the regular setting. You just use whatever you think works best for your surroundings, because if you set this thing on automatic and it's just gonna do its thing, and when it needs more power, it goes back to home base, gets more power, and then it resumes what it was doing. So that's a very nice feature. I definitely like it. And I just kind of wish that I could do a full cleaning, scheduled cleaning, which I've scheduled a few days now, without it getting stuck. Which brings me to my next topic. Getting stuck. Now the last robot vacuum that I had could not even make it onto the rug that I had in my living room, which kind of sucked, no pun intended, because it sometimes got stuck, sometimes it didn't, but overall it just did not agree with my rug. This new one is a beast. It just goes on top of that rug, jumps off of it, rides the edge, it does everything without missing a beat, which is awesome. The only thing is, it sits higher. Of course, this is sitting on a little prop, but this thing sits roughly about 3.5 inches, and it has this little nub here. I think this is an infrared blaster for its sensors, and that adds not quite 1/2 inch, but almost. And what that means is that the previous robot, which sat 2.9 inches total, was able to make it underneath my sofas. Also, it did not get stuck on my refrigerator door, like this one did. So this one can make it over the rug, but it can't go underneath my sofas, which is kind of fine. I mean, it hits the edge and it just comes back, so it doesn't get stuck underneath the sofas. But this little nub here actually made it get stuck underneath a kitchen cabinet. I have no idea how it wedged itself underneath, because it was kind of a pain to get out, but still, this thing sticking up, it kind of ruins the height. I mean, they could have made the entire thing bigger and somehow incorporated this thing in. And it's a base model. I mean, it is what it is. Now, the last vacuum that I reviewed actually had 2 of these little spinning brushes. This only has 1. I looked online, and actually, it's more common to only have 1 spinning brush, which is fine. It's just something that I wanted to take a note of. Then, of course, you have the brush that's in the middle that's gonna be pulling everything into the device. A basic little roller on here, and 2 pretty decent little tires. I mean, this thing can get over rugs. But at the bottom, that's where the magic happens. You can add this mop if you want to, which is cool, kinda. In my own opinion, and I haven't really used it too much because I don't have the ability to tell it not to go on carpet, I would think that the whole mopping thing is definitely just for some very basic, like keeping dust off of hardwood floors, which I assume is exactly what it's designed for, is just to keep your floors, you know, not dusty. It's pretty easy to set up. You just fill it up through the top. Although, little side note, I would recommend wetting it first before you put it onto the robot vacuum. That way it doesn't take a while for it to start dropping water down. And you actually get an extra mop too. So when this gets dirty or worn out, you have a replacement. And on top of that, it has a base. So just in case you set it up to mop, you can actually install this onto the base. So when it parks itself, it won't sit there and collect water on a hardwood floor, which is really good if you have engineered hardwood floor. It likes to swell up a lot, so you got to be careful with that stuff. This will give you a little bit of a water barrier between your robot vacuum and your floor. But all that aside, I mean, you have to fill it up, set it up, and then you have to buy the magnetic strips if you have carpet or rug areas that you don't want the robot to go to. So in the end, I think I want to use this robot as an actual cleaner in my house, but I don't ever see me using the mop attachment. It's a neat little feature. I just think in my personal setup, it's not useful for me. And on a side note here, when I was testing this, because I don't have the boundaries, I actually was going to test the remote function with the app alongside the mopping to kind of demonstrate both things, but the app kept failing on me, saying it wasn't connected. So it can communicate with the robot enough to send commands and see where it is on a map and build maps and stuff like that. But anytime I use the remote connection, using the little thumb pad thing to tell it where to go, it would just stop and kind of wig out on me. And overall, I have a really good Wi-Fi signal in my house with a pretty beefy router, so it shouldn't be a Wi-Fi connectivity issue. It wasn't really that big of a deal for me because as a whole, I'm not going to be using this feature at all. And for the purpose of demonstrating this video, I just stuck my foot out when I didn't want it to go on the rug with the mop attachment on. Now, one thing I do like about the app is that there is an option to go in and view not only the history of what it's done along with the maps and everything, but it also has a consumables and maintenance option. What this does is it displays how much you've used each thing on your system. Things like your filter, which they give you replacement for, your little water distribution nozzle thingies, which they give you replacement for, the mop attachment, which they give you replacement for, and they even tell you to clean your sensors, which is kind of cool. Now, of course, you can use the app to control the robot, but if you don't have that available, you do still get the 3 keys on the top that you can use to power it on, turn it off, tell it to automatically recharge, or tell it to start cleaning. But let's be honest, the app is way cooler and most people probably use that. As far as sensors go, it has, I think, 13 different sensors, fall prevention. I couldn't get this thing to fall down the stairs, just like the last one. I was way disappointed because a falling robot is a funny robot. Total miss for me. Good for the vacuum, but just not entertaining for video. But 13 sensors built into this thing, including the whole carpet thing where it knows it's on the carpet. So it's definitely got a lot of sensing technology and actually helps it not bump things as hard as the last robot that I reviewed. I noticed that it doesn't like hit the trash can at like ramming speeds. The last one seemed to slow down a little bit, but this one with the sensors built in, it definitely slows down to just a crawl before it just slightly bumps objects. So in my opinion, that's actually a huge bonus because let's just say if you're like me, hypothetically, and you have, wooden chairs in your kitchen and this thing is constantly bumping into your wooden chairs or desk or table or whatever, over time, maybe those scratches will start to add up. So if you have milder bumps, less scratches, less wear and tear on your furniture. So overall, it's a very versatile robot and in my experience is able to go way more places than the last robot that I had. And that's probably going to be because it sits a little bit higher, although I do sacrifice the ability to go underneath my sofas because of the height and this stupid little nub thingy. So if I had to say I was impressed by one thing, is definitely going to be the mapping and going back to recharging. With the last robot that I demonstrated, it seemed to just kind of fumble around a lot more before it actually found its way back to its charging station. Now this thing actually stops cleaning at 20% to allow it to find its way back to its charging base. But every time I watched it go back to its charging base, it just kind of went directly to it almost. Not quite, but for the most part, it almost made a beeline for the charging station. And we're talking not line of sight like it was in the kitchen and one time it was in the bedroom. So it does really good at finding its way home, which is part of the whole mapping thing being more advanced than the last one that I looked at. I'm a little let down, it gets stuck. I was kind of hoping to have that worry-free cleaning experience. Let's say I tell this thing to clean every other day. Maybe if once a week I have to come home and, nudge it out from underneath something, I would understand that. But so far, 2 out of 3 times it's gotten stuck, which means if I am going to schedule this to clean, I'm probably just going to schedule to clean at a time when I am home, or just manually start it when I know I have some downtime, not recording a video, that sort of thing. What I think it needs is like some BattleBot attachments, like when it gets stuck, it like jets out some arms and knocks itself out, maybe flips over a little bit, knives come out. I mean, the sky's the limit as far as, what you can add to this thing with duct tape. So in conclusion, guys, this is definitely better than the last robot vacuum that I looked at. In my particular situation, it still cannot clean without getting stuck, but it can get up on the rug a lot better than the last one can. So overall, I like this one more than the last one. I'm not quite to perfection yet. Not quite. If you want to find out more information about the robot vacuum, as always, I will put links to the product in the description down below. There you will see more detailed technical specifications along with an up-to-date current pricing. And I'll even link to my last robot vacuum review if you'd like to watch that as well. So as always, guys, like and subscribe below. Thank you for watching and have yourself a good day.